Nancy Hollander is a member and partner of the firm Freedman, Boyd, Hollander, Goldberg, Ives, and Duncan. Her practice is largely devoted to criminal cases, including those involving national security issues. She is one of the most famous lawyers in the USA, known for her active commitment to uphold the constitutional legal guarantees of her clients when they are in danger of being ignored by executive power. Over the past years, she has been involved as counsel for 2 prisoners in Guantanamo Bay and members of the Holy Land Foundation, whose charity activities supposedly benefited organizations linked to Hamas.
As Robert said, I'm an American lawyer. I represent many clients, and I have for many years. If I'm said to represent anything here today, it is my fight for all my clients for justice and fairness in the criminal system. Let me tell you a little bit about Holy Land so you can understand a little bit about what material support to terrorism has come to mean in the United States. Holy Land began through a vision, an inspiration from a man who also became my client, Shukri Abu Bakr. When his second daughter was born in the United States, and after welcoming her into the world, they discovered, he and his wife Wijdan discovered that she suffered from 2 devastating inherited illnesses. And were she not born in a modern hospital in Indiana in the United States, she would never have lived past a year. She fortunately is still alive now, 25 years later. But what Shukri and Wijdan realized was, and they were Palestinian immigrants to the United States, that had she been born in their homeland of Palestine, she would not have lived. And Shukri decided to dedicate his life to those children around the world who needed help and assistance and didn't have it. The Holy Land Foundation for Relief and Development was started. It originally had a different name, but it became Holy Land, and it was started in 1988. And for years, it worked, it raised tremendous amounts of money, and it just delivered them. Its salaries for its employees were very, very low, including Shukri, who became its executive director. And they provided literally stipends for orphans and families. They built hospitals, they built schools, they provided backpacks for children and stuffed the backpacks with everything the children would need to go to school, including pencils, paper, even books, even shoes and uniforms, so children could go to school. And they worked for many, many years. Much of the work went through charities. In the Muslim world, there are charities known as zakat committees because Muslims are required to tithe and sometimes don't know where are the orphans, where are the families in which to give the money. These committees have developed over many, many years in many countries, and they're usually run by volunteers who are familiar with the community. And so if somebody in the United States, say, wants to give money to children in the West Bank, he can give the money to a zakat committee in the West Bank, knowing that they know who the orphans are, they know who the children are. And even these committees run hospitals and schools. And this was a good way for Holy Land to work and to work in these areas. Unfortunately, at one point, Hamas was designated as a terrorist organization. These lists have expanded. There are now over 200 entities, organizations, and individuals that are on the list. There are 14 different lists. They're all on the internet. You can go on the internet and find them. But they happen, and they're controlled either by the Department of State of the United States, or most of them by the Department of the Treasury through an office called the Office of Foreign Assets Control, or OFAC. They simply, the members of these committees decide this particular organization will be designated, and they really operate without very much in the way of guidelines. So in 1995, Hamas was designated. Holy Land was concerned that they wanted to make sure they could continue to fund these zakat committees, and they didn't want to get into any trouble. So what they did was hire a lawyer who was a former congressman, a man named John Bryant, and John Bryant went to the Department of State, he went to the Department of Justice, he went to even the Israeli embassy and said, just let us know if any of these committees are on some list that we don't know about, then let us know and we'll give our money elsewhere. And they were told, just look at the list. After 9/11, 2001, the world changed. And without warning, without notice, on December 3rd of 2001, the FBI came into the Holy Land's offices, closed it, froze all the money. At that time, it was right after Ramadan that year, which was when they had a big campaign, so there was about $12 million in the bank, froze it all, and took everything, took every piece of paper, took every desk, even took the plants out of the offices, closed it up. What happened then was we began to represent the Holy Land Foundation, and we argued that this was simply unfair. It was unfair to go in and seize everything that they had without any, what we call due process, without any hearing, without any chance for them to defend themselves. And we argued this for many courts. We went through 3 courts. The government relied on secret evidence that we were never allowed to see. They relied on hearsay, newspaper reports, investigations from the Israeli government. We introduced sworn statements from the people who worked for Holy Land that they had never been associated with Hamas, that the Zakat committees were not associated with Hamas. We had experts testify about these Zakat committees. Now, these committees are all licensed based on secret evidence that we're sorry you don't ever get to see. Based on the hearsay, based on this information, Holy Land remains designated. And what that means is cut off entirely from the process. Any organization that's designated, any individual who's designated, no American person, no American bank, no American organization can have anything to do with them. But then to make matters worse, about a year after we finally lost that case in the Supreme Court, Holy Land, which no longer existed, and 5 of its principals were arrested and charged with the criminal crime of material support. This became a much more serious case in many ways because these people were facing long jail terms. And we again represented Holy Land, and we again began to represent Shukri Abu Bakr in the criminal case. Now, the other thing that was devastating about this case is that our clients were not accused of, nor convicted of, shooting a single gun, buying a single bullet, blowing up a single bus. They were accused of and convicted of providing charity. So even though our clients were convicted, and ultimately they were, of material support to terrorism, they were not accused or charged with a single violent act. In the United States, I can walk down any street with any one of these flags. Something else you can't do, perhaps, in every country in Europe or everywhere else. But I could walk down the street carrying a flag. I can say I support any one of these organizations. But what I can't do, and what they can't do, is be a part of the democratic process. Shukri Abu Bakr and one of the other principals in Holy Land are in jail now. They're going to be in jail for 65 years as a result of providing charity. There is one possible appeal left to the United States Supreme Court. Other than that, there is no way out for them. 65 years in the United States means 65 years, or perhaps 50 years, but it is a death sentence. It is a life in prison sentence for providing charity.